This is Global Signals by Andrew Drimmon. Deep dives and insights about retail and FMCG. I am absolutely thrilled to guide you through today's explainer because we're looking at a completely fascinating strategic parallel. We're going to see exactly what everyday consumer brands and grocery retailers can learn from aviation economics. I know, it sounds a little wild at first, right? But believe me, the structural parallels here are just undeniable.
So let's dive right into this with a genuinely shocking number, $31.1 billion. Right now, as we speak, that is the market valuation of Ryanair. Just think about that for a second. $31 billion. We're talking about a single Irish ultra-low-cost carrier commanding a massive footprint in global market cap.
To put that into some broader perspective, at $31.1 billion, this single low-cost airline is literally worth more than legacy giants Lufthansa and American Airlines combined, which is crazy. But wait a minute, take a look at Delta Airlines. Delta sits firmly at the very top of the pack with a massive market capitalization of $58.5 billion. So what does this all mean? Well, if being low cost was the only winning factor, Delta wouldn't be leading the market by a margin of nearly $18 billion over its closest rival.
The absolute crucial takeaway here is this. The market is polarizing, and the middle tier is completely collapsing. You see, you can win at the top with genuine premium experiences, and you can totally win at the bottom with extreme low-cost utility. But if you're a legacy brand, carrying large overhead and these super complex operations, and you're stuck right in the middle, well, your business model is in severe structural trouble.
Section 1. From Airlines to the Aisle.
During a recent portfolio review, one of our retail clients actually asked this incredibly direct question. They were totally confused as to why their regular discounting just wasn't saving their mid-tier products. It is a super frustrating position to be in, for sure. But the answer to their struggle? It's actually entirely visible right in those aviation economics we were just talking about.
The blunt answer is that they're trapped right in what we call the mushy middle. These are products or retailers that are just, well, they're neither cheap enough to battle it out with the hard discounters, nor premium enough to really justify charging a higher price. And these brands are struggling right now because shoppers today are making very distinct, very separated choices. They either trade down to save money, or they actively trade up for superior quality. There's really no in-between anymore.
So, there are basically two working logic models in today's consumer market. On one hand, you have extreme utility. This is where consumers buy base functionality at the lowest possible cost. They literally just want the product to work, arrive on time, and be as cheap as humanly possible. Think of Ryanair or grocery stores like Aldi, Lidl, or Mercadona. Then, on the other hand, you have genuine premium. Think Delta, Singapore Air, or high-end specialty brands. Here, consumers gladly pay significantly more for tangible advantages, high service reliability, and superior ingredients. But that squeezed, mushy middle right in the center, they're carrying these complex supply chains and heavy corporate overhead, but at the end of the day, they deliver an entirely ordinary product.
When people open their wallets today, they're making some pretty simple trade-offs. For everyday groceries, basic canned goods, pasta, cleaning supplies, dairy, a consumer is going to buy private label lines at a hard discounter and easily save, say, 40 to 60 euros a basket. But then, they take those exact savings and use them for selective indulgence. They spend that cash on a premium single-origin coffee or specialized sports nutrition or maybe some really high-end skincare.
And this brings us to a really harsh reality for legacy items. In FMCG and grocery retail, the middle is occupied by these traditional national brands that are charging a 30 to 40% premium over private label goods. But the kicker is they fail to offer any clear functional superiority. And because of this, that brand offering average quality just wrapped in shiny packaging, it gets cut completely from the household budget. It's just not worth it to the consumer anymore.
Section 2. Operational Velocity. Now you might be wondering, how did these discount models actually make so much money? Well, Ryanair doesn't make money simply by selling cheap seats. They actually generate high margins through incredible asset speed. They aim for a crazy fast 25-minute gate turnaround, because when planes just sit on the tarmac, they are burning capital. When they fly, they generate cash. And in retail consulting, we see a direct equivalent to this with inventory velocity. Hard discounters run a very limited assortment. We're talking maybe 2,000 to 3,000 SKUs, compared to a whopping 30,000 in a traditional supermarket. This insanely fast stock turnover frees up so much working capital and just vastly lowers warehousing waste.
Also, think about how budget airlines operate, mostly Boeing 737s.
Doing that keeps maintenance super simple and heavily reduces the need for spare parts. The direct retail equivalent to this kind of operational simplicity, it's shelf-ready packaging. This lets store staff restock an entire shelf in literally seconds, rather than unpacking and placing individual items one by one. Plus, just like a budget airline ticket basically covers transport only, meaning things like priority boarding, baggage, and even water are separate transactions, retailers have to aggressively enforce zero cross-subsidization. What I mean is, your profitable product lines should absolutely never have to carry the costs of your slow-moving, low-margin legacy products.
Section 3. Strategic Portfolio Audit. Okay, so how do you apply this? You need to audit your portfolio against 4 vital checkpoints. First off, identify your real value drivers. You've got to cut any features, promotions, and extra packaging layers that don't actually change a consumer's purchasing decision right there at the shelf. Second, choose a clear market position. You can compete on brutal operational cost, or you can compete on undeniable product superiority, but you can never ever do both. Third, protect your balance sheet health. High market valuations rely heavily on low debt and clean cash flow, mainly because heavy debt completely limits your pricing flexibility when those inevitable price wars hit. And the fourth checkpoint? You have to measure velocity over margin percentage. Consider this math carefully because it's a real game changer. A product with a 15% margin that turns 20 times a year is actually going to generate more cash for you than a 40% margin product that only turns 3 times a year. This specific math right here is the engine of operational velocity. It perfectly mirrors those fast airline turnaround times we were just talking about. Section 4. Surviving the market shift.
Now, a question we get all the time. Does this low-cost model work for every single consumer category? It's an important question, and the answer is simply no. Point-to-point transportation is an undifferentiated utility, right? Getting from point A to point B is the core goal. However, in categories that are heavily tied to personal health, emotional identity, or high sensory importance, think baby food, specialized cosmetics, or true luxury goods, consumers actively and happily pay for brand equity, trust, and premium formulation.
So if you are currently stuck in that mushy middle, your survival really depends on taking decisive action today. Brands basically have to do one of 2 things to survive. They either need to reformulate and reposition their products into high-margin, functional niches so they can actually justify a premium price tag, or they have to completely streamline their manufacturing and supply chains to drastically lower unit costs so they can compete purely on price. Whatever you do, you simply cannot stay in the middle. So, take a really hard look at your own brand today. Are you dominating the skies of premium value? Are you flying fast with extreme utility? Or are you just burning cash while stuck on the tarmac in the mushy middle? You are watching Global Signals by Andrew Drummond. Deep dives and insights about retail and FMCG.